Jutta and Qapel, thanks very much for joining us in our questionnaire on the next retreat, Hero's Journey in Germany. I already said that your retreat is called Hero's Journey. I'm sure we're not talking about Superman or Supergirl, and we're not watching movies then, but we're gonna do something else. Let's start with the terms in the Hero's Journey. What is the hero? Who is the hero? And what is the journey?
All right. Well, first we'll start with may all beings be well and happy, because that is the key to all spiritual work, is to bring a being in from a state of relative unhappiness or really unhappiness to happiness. So that's the starting point, and the person who does that work is a hero
or heroine, as the case may be. And how we get there from here is the journey, and that looks different for each person.
Now, we typically think of a hero as somebody who meets fear or faces danger and does the best they can under those conditions. But in this case, a hero is a person who wants to take a good look at reality and see what life really is. And that takes a strong heart, because a lot of our life is built on illusions or dreams or fantasies that can't hold up under examination, which is why most people become unhappy when they do, because they're suffering from illusions. And the hero is the person who sees through those illusions and makes efforts to drop them.
And make the changes in life in order to shape a life that each of us wants to live. And that looks different for each person.
Okay.
So if you look at the external heroes like Superman or Batman or somebody, they're meeting the life's dangers and helping people on the exterior plane. But if you look at somebody like Jesus or Buddha or Gandhi or Mother Teresa, they're trying to help people meet the dangers of life on the inner plane. And that's the hero's journey we're talking about.
Okay, but we're also talking about like everyday people. So what if I or they do describe themselves as content, satisfied? Why should they make this journey? What do they get out of it?
I think if someone describes themselves as content or satisfied, they probably don't want to make the hero's journey. It takes a lot of effort to maintain a facade of contentment and satisfaction if one isn't actually content and satisfied. And being content and being satisfied is really a tremendous accomplishment in today's world, because even if my life is going well, the world is in a very challenging place right now.
If you don't know you're in jail, you have no motivation to get out of it.
That's right.
That's right. Yeah.
So that's kind of the first noble truth of the Buddhist teaching, is that all formations are in struggles. So if one doesn't see one is struggling, one won't have any motivation or interest in even starting. And that's okay, because to everything there's a season, and that includes the spiritual work. You have to be ripe.
Yeah, have to be ready.
Okay. So now I'm thinking of something a nice journey, but the hero's journey works with a lot of shadows, right? Shadows and demons. Why all that dark stuff?
Well, that's a very good question. The reason for it is because we were born, and we're born into a culture and a society that tells us how to behave, what we should think, what we should feel, what our values should be. And so we're kind of imprisoned by that. Even if it's good, we're still stuck, because we don't know for ourselves whether that's what we want. So in order to find out what the release from suffering is, one has to meet those things that risk the status quo, and that risk is where the shadow hides.
Every person has hopes and fears, and in order to fulfill our hopes, in order to fulfill our dreams, in order to reach that contentment and satisfaction you mentioned earlier, we really need to face our fears and explore those fears. Why are we afraid? What exactly are we afraid of? What happens if we encounter those things? And that's a scary process to face those fears, but it's also an exhilarating and exciting adventure. And we come out on the other side of that much stronger. That's the heroine or the hero.
Probably the biggest one is impermanence.
The biggest fear?
The biggest fear is that our whole lives are built on the illusion that it's going to go on the way it is, or that it's going to get bigger and better. And that may be true, but the bottom line is it's always changing. It's always out of your control in a major kind of way. And that you're eventually going to have to die. And when you die, everything goes. So we try to avoid that point, which is why so many people are afraid of death.
So it's
the hero goes out to meet the dragon. The hero goes out to meet the death, the fear, the whatever. And in the meeting of it, they integrate it. They bring it into their being. And now they're not afraid anymore.
So that's how the shadow looks like too, right? It's closer to a dying experience or related to that more than to a happy experience.
Well, the result is a happy experience.
The result is a happy experience.
Right? We may feel like a part of ourselves is dying, or a stage of our life is passing away. But what comes out is definitely better and feels better. Like a snake shedding its skin for a new skin.
From the point of view of religion,
which is why snakes are scary.
Yes. And from the point of view of religion, the demon is an evil, but from the point of view of the spiritual journey, the daemon, right, is an ally, but it's an ally we haven't yet learned to integrate. And so the spiritual journey, the hero's journey, is integrating the daemon and turning it from a demon into an ally.
But it could be a horrible experience to some participants, right?
There are difficult moments for sure. But I mean, don't you have difficult moments already just going to work? I mean, you can go, yeah, I had a difficult day, therefore I won't live. I had a difficult spiritual experience and therefore I quit. I mean, if you're going to do that, you might as well just lie down, have a nap.
We can guarantee there will be difficult moments, whether or not someone undertakes the hero's journey. And the great thing about the hero's journey is that we come out more of a hero, more of a heroine than we were before.
If you think about a divorce as a demon, right, a terrible journey divorce, right, but you get another relationship, and so you got to do it again, right? But the point is, when you integrate the daemon, then there's no more divorce. I mean, I don't mean that you don't live with the same person all the time. I mean, there's no more separation in your being, that you have to do it over and over again. And the reason we do things over and over again is because we haven't learned the lesson.
So do you have an example turning the shadow into something positive? Is that an example that you think about the divorce and it's not a demon anymore? Or the marriage is not a demon anymore? You're free to do something else?
A divorce is a great example. You might be miserable in a relationship and can't stand the person who you're together with, but still not want a divorce. A divorce is still difficult to go through. But if you meet that, it might be the first time you can actually appreciate that person for being a fine human being. Just wasn't meant for you to be together.
So we're not pro-divorce.
No, not
but we're not pro-marriage either. But the point being is the nature of impermanence, the nature of delusion is trying to make something into something it isn't. So in a divorce case, you fall in love, you think it's forever, it's all roses, and then the reality of day-to-day life is they're just a person, and you have to find out whether that's a person you can actually spend that much time with. And if you can, it goes on, and if you can't, you go on, and it's okay.
Okay. So how do you deal with people who think that they do not even have a shadow?
Well, we don't.
Everyone in our lives knows they have one.
I mean, if you don't think you have one, You're on the other side of the highway or something.
Okay.
You're on the Autobahn and you getting across that road from not having a shadow, crossing the Autobahn, you know how difficult that could be if you're walking,
Okay.
right? You know, it's not easy, but you get the other side and you go, oh, okay. It's a different view over here. And so that's probably the biggest part of any spiritual journey is there's a change in view. And the biggest change in view is the view about you.
Okay.
I'm this, I'm not that, and so on.
I was wondering about two examples that could probably be in the retreat. One would be Gandhi, the other one Putin. So what would the shadow work look like with each of them?
Well, Putin wouldn't be there.
Interesting example you've chosen.
Putin wouldn't be there because he couldn't even find the building.
He obviously I don't think he knows he has a shadow.
No.
Right. And he's a great example of why we're motivated to integrate our shadow, to face our shadow, because it can go terribly wrong.
And Gandhi wouldn't show up because he's already done it.
Gandhi did that work.
Gandhi did that work. So that's why Gandhi's Gandhi.
He said what did he say? The only evil to fear are the demons in our own heart. I believe.
That's
Gandhi
a very
said that.
the only devils are the devils in our own heart, according to the movie anyway.
That's the shadow work.
And so he's done it.
Okay, but the shadow looks very different from, I mean, it depends on the person, right? Yes. So there are a lot of different shadows coming up.
Well, the core ones are pretty standard: money, sex, and power.
It's unique to each person, and at the same time, it's very universal because we're all human and all living in the same era.
Yeah. All men are the same in some ways. All women are the same in some ways, and all men and women are humans, so they're the same in some ways. And the rest is programming. What does German culture say about money? What does American culture say about money?
Right. There'll be some variations
on a theme, though.
Yeah.
But still similar.
The common one, of course, is clinging to an idea of a permanent, fixed self-identity that makes me me. That is the big one.
So the retreat lasts for 9 days at least. What's happening during these days? What kind of development am I going through?
One of the reasons we like this retreat is because it is very embodied work. It's very somatic. It's very creative.
Interactive.
Very interactive.
Personal.
So we use a lot of different modalities to explore this hero's journey and to explore the shadow and the transformation of the shadow into our strengths, into our allies. So there will be drawing and dancing and movement, visualizations.
Theater, the monster meets the hero. It's like a good movie.
Journaling.
Sounds good.
You might want to watch Robin Williams' movie, The Fisher King. I think that's what it was called.
Yeah,
is it The Fisher King?
That's right.
The Fisher King is a good hero's journey movie.
Or Star Wars.
Or Star Wars, or
the first one.
The first one.
Star Wars.
So attending the retreat and finding my shadow or making friends with it or trying to make friends with it, where do I see the difference in daily life after?
Energy and relaxation. Anxiety will go down.
Lowered
worry
anxiety
will go down.
because less fear.
Yeah, less fear. You'll feel more compassionate towards other people because you realize that if they met their shadows, they'd be happier people. Have more tolerance for people that are close to you that bug you, because you realize the reason they're bugging you is because they haven't met their shadows.
Okay.
More vitality, because it takes a lot of energy to keep our shadow
away.
Suppressed, to keep it away.
And a humongous growth in your sense of humor. Because really this all is theater. All of life as stage, and what did Shakespeare say? We are but actors, acting out our bits. And so once you realize you're just playing a role, it doesn't become so life or death to kind of trip on the stage and flub your lines.
Okay. So from your perspective, when you've done it for the first time since you're teachers, what happened to you?
Well, what we just said.
Same thing.
Yeah. More vitality, less fear, less dread,
Okay.
less anxiety, less depression,
Less identification with things.
more joy.
Okay.
The,
And
the creative friction in the process
Once you-
is also very wonderful. It's a wonderful creative exploration.
Once you've lived in a foreign country, you've never quite your thing again. So if you're a German and you live, say, in Thailand for 3 or 4 years, you can't go back to Germany and just be German anymore. You've had a transformative experience. People in Germany won't really see you as somehow completely fitting in because you've been away. And you won't feel like you completely German anymore.
That's right.
You've been away. And that's got nothing against Germany or Finland or Thailand. It's just the reality of altered experience.
Or people who haven't been.
Or people who haven't been.
Mhm. Okay.
And people generally experience that as enriching.
Enriching.
So if you
But
compare,
it does
sorry.
shift your life. It does shift your life. It shifts your life. Definitely. But
In a good way.
In a good way.
Okay.
More tolerant, for one.
If you compare the hero's journey to other teachings you're doing, is it very different? Is it close to it? Is it less meditation, more body work, or how does it differ, and how does it?
I think the main difference is because it's based in Western culture.
Yeah, it's very Western.
So in this sense, it's nice because no one needs to study to understand what we're talking about, because it's all things that everybody already knows.
Okay.
Everybody's seen Superman and knows about Clark Kent's struggles. Everyone's seen Star Wars and knows that Darth Vader really wants to be loved.
Yeah. In fact,
Wants to breathe.
that's an incredibly strong statement, because everybody's enemy is their lack of love, or their feeling of lack of love, or that they're not getting it, or they can't give it.
And then, excuse me, then because it's a Western modality, then it's more external, it's more expressive.
Yeah.
So
More
the
active.
Eastern modalities are more about our internal experience. And of course, there will be a lot of internal processing in this, along this hero's journey, but we'll be expressing it externally through movement and drawing and journaling and
Okay.
so on.
And while it's there won't be a lot of sitting meditation practice, but there will be. But it's very, again, as Sensei said, it's very interactive. It's very Western.
So did an American develop it? I read that Joseph Campbell used the term for the first time and developed something out of it. Sounds American to me. And the hero, like the initiation thing in literature, to me sounds that it's close to the American culture, right?
Oh, no, it goes
It's
way,
not?
way back. Ancient Greece, ancient Egypt,
Okay.
Mesopotamia, Babylonia.
I think of Prometheus
up the mountain.
bringing
Yeah, that's
fire,
right.
stealing fire from the gods.
The Plato and Socrates and Aristotle debate, and all the Greek gods like Zeus and Hera and Neptune. It's all the same stuff. And in fact, it comes out of Europe. It starts, I think, with who wrote that in our book, Wasteland to Pure Land, the prison, this generation. What was that first line?
Eliot.
Eliot's
C.S.
poem,
Eliot's
Wasteland,
poem,
Wasteland.
Eliot, yeah, Wasteland, yeah.
So
Okay.
it's like you're locked in a prison and you got to get out. Who can turn the key? This is European mysticism long before it hit the coasts of North America.
Okay.
But Joseph Campbell did do a lot of work on mythology, and he's well worth reading.
I think he was the first to really recognize the universality of the tale across cultures and throughout human history.
I think he developed mythology as a study, in universities. So he's a big figure and he's well worth reading. But if you read a lot of Joseph Campbell, you realize he's not talking about America all that much.
So once you did that retreat, does it make sense to do it a couple of times, or is the first one, does it hit you really, really hard, and the next ones are going to be like, all right, I know what's coming? So
yeah, a little bit.
Well, I think it's taking the process deeper and deeper. Transforming our demons into allies is a significant undertaking. So we can make great progress the first time we do this retreat, and there may still be more work to be done. And it will still be interesting. It will still be an exciting adventure.
It's a bit like sex and potato chips.
Do you want to do it again? You did it already. Are you done, Jutta?
You had sex. I had one potato chip. Maybe potato chips aren't as big in Germany as they are here. But
they are.
Just one potato chip. I'm only having sex once. I did it.
And you're done.
And they're done.
Okay. Well, actually, that's it so far for me. I have no more questions. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
And the thing about it is that the spiritual work can be work when you are meeting resistances and blocks, and about that there's no doubt. But when they're liberated, when they're released, then the joy and the energy and the vivacity of life, the vivant.
So it means the practice is to look out for them and to go for the change, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And it gets easier, I think.
It's not as hard as it sounds. I mean, when you meet a challenge, which is terrifying in the beginning, once you've gone through it, you kind of go,
the hardest part is the resistance.
Just meeting.
And letting go of the resistance. And then we usually find it was a way bigger monster in our minds than it was
in reality. The problem for some people is they get up to it and they keep butting their head against it, but they don't go through it. So it seems like it's endless. So that's the hero. The hero is the person who says, no, I'm going through this. I'm not going to run.
Has the courage to keep going.
Keep going.
Yeah, but maybe they're also afraid of, because you have to be, you're alone kind of if you go through the gate, right? There's no one coming with you, because all the people you met before and you knew before, only part of them will understand what you're going through. That's correct. I think a lot of people prefer to stay where they are because they seem to be safer there, having their community.
Yeah, and that's the illusion, is that regardless, you're alone. You know, you go to, if you're 5 kids and a husband, wife, you put your head down on the pillow at night, there's only one person going to sleep there. You inside your own head or body. So it's an illusion, as you put it, to think that you're not alone.
Yeah. And the other thing is that the heroine and the hero are always motivated to help others. So we can still be with that community, and now we can be of more use to them, right? Gawain went looking for the Holy Grail, not because he wanted it for himself, but because he wanted it for all the people in the land.
Right. Yeah.
So when we talk about alone, we're talking about the ego. But the hero's journey takes you past the ego. It's transpersonal psychology. And when you transcended the ego, then you're alone in the universe with the universe. You are the universe. You literally are completely integrated and connected.
There is no such thing as alone.
But the ego is always alone.
Okay. All right.
You see there?
Yeah.
And of course we'll be there to support everybody in the process.
Yeah.
That's what we're for. And we've done it and don't feel lonely.
Yeah.
I think we're pretty fun to be around.
And it's more fun with others. I mean, this is very Western. The Western thing is very much about interaction and community and engagement. It's very, very part of the Western culture. You're not doing a cabin retreat. You're alone in your cabin by yourself. Catherine just came out of a 3-month cabin alone by herself for 3 months. And I don't
Just
think
me
she's,
and the universe.
I don't think she's the worst for it.
Wow. You still there?
Yeah, are we finished?
Yes.
Oh, you can't see
I
us.
don't
You can't
see
see
you.
us. Okay, may all be well and happy.
May all be well and happy.
And we look forward to seeing you in Germany. And
Maybe I take I turn around my computer so I can see you, but you won't see me again.
okay.
So